Hi, today we will try and see what you need to remember during the mocks and the CAT exam. So the focus is not on how to prepare for the mocks and CAT exam, but in this video we'll see what exactly do you need during the exam to maximize your performance. And while doing that, we'll also touch on some topics which you should have looked at before appearing for the exam to maximize your output over there. So with that in mind, let's jump straight ahead. So we'll start with Quant. So in Quant, one thing that you should know, and you should check that during your mocks is that do you know what you know? And when I say know what you know, I mean do you know which topics you are strong in, where you can go ahead and definitely solve the question. For example, in my case, I knew that if there will be an algebra question, if there will be a permutation and combination question, if there will be a probability question, I would be able to solve it. I may not be as good in number system, but I definitely would be able to solve anything which comes from algebra or from geometry side. So that's how you also need to know where your strengths lie. The reason why you need to know that is because that will help you identify the questions to attack initially to get the momentum going. Plus, if you have only 5 minutes left and 3 questions to look at, you can very quickly pick which one you are more likely to solve and go after that one. And that helps a lot in improving your performance. So while giving the mocks, you should keep testing whether you know where your exact strengths lie or not. Read all the questions. Goes without saying, you should try and attempt to read all the questions that are in there. If you are lacking time, still you should ensure that somehow you're able to skim through all the questions and able to identify the easier ones and do them, because there might be a question at the end which you have already done in your preparation, and that's 4 marks for the taking, which you miss out if you're not able to read through all the questions. So please ensure that you read all the questions. Keep track of the time, and as soon as you notice that there are only 5 minutes or 10 minutes left in this section, ensure that you quickly skim through at least all the questions before you go to the next one. This is the third thing. So many times what will happen is you'll pick up a question and you'll start solving it, and you won't be able to solve it, and you'd have already have spent 4 or 5 minutes on it. Ensure that you look at the options if this question has options. Because when you look at the options, one thing it does is you can probably very easily eliminate one or two. The other is also that the nature of the solution guides you while solving the question. If there is a root in all the options, you know that an under root has to come somehow, and then your mind starts thinking in that direction. So always look at the options. This goes across sections, but especially important in quant and in data interpretation, that you should always have a look at the options. And in the same way, try to eliminate options. This becomes more important when you have less time and a lot more questions to attack. If you can very quickly eliminate 1 or 2 options and you still have 2 options, you should make a guess at that point of time. So if you have only 5 questions left and only 3 minutes are left, you should not be trying to work till the final solution. But as soon as you're able to eliminate 1 or 2 options, you have 2 options, you just take a guess at that point of time and move on to the next question. Because that way, your probability of getting that question right is extremely high. Even if you get it wrong, you lose only 1 mark, but if you get it right, you gain 3 marks. So the odds are in your favor, and you should be willing to take the risk at that point of time. So in quant, these are the things that I think you should keep in mind. Now let's move on to the next section, which is data interpretation. So one thing that you need to keep in mind in data interpretation is that ensure you attempt the graphical sets first. There will be word problems also there. My sense is that the word problems are much more difficult to solve than graphical sets on an average, because you are at least familiar with the graphs throughout your preparation. You know how each graph works, and the data is also put in a lot more structured format. So if you have a graphical set, you can at least do that and hopefully get some marks in your bank, and that will help your nerves settle down. That will reduce the panic that you are experiencing. So ensure you attempt the graphical sets first. When you are attempting a set, within 3 minutes, you should have a sense whether you will be able to solve this or not. It should not take you like 10 minutes and then you realize that you're not able to solve this. And this comes through practice, this comes through intuition. So while you're going through your mocks, you should try this and see how you can decide in 3 minutes if the search is worth spending more time. Because if you spend 10-12 minutes on a set and you're not able to solve it, and that happens twice in one exam, you have almost killed your chances of getting a high percentile in that section. It can still happen, but the chances are very low because you've already wasted 20 minutes out of the 60 minutes that was there. So ensure that in 3 or 4 minutes you have an idea whether it is worth spending more time on it. Sometimes it will happen that you have spent 8 minutes, 9 minutes, and you are still making no progress and you are panicking. So what you should at least do at this point of time is that read all the questions. Most students will only read the first question and continue to try to solve that. And if they are not able to do it, they'll move on to the next set. Read the second, third, fourth question also on that set. The reason why I say this is twofold. One is that many times when you read all the questions, you start getting a sense of what is happening. You read the questions, you read the options, it will guide you in analyzing the set as well. Secondly, and more importantly, there are times when the third question or the fourth question is easier than the first or second one, and you might already have got the answer for the third question. There, reading all the questions is helpful because you might be just be solving the third and fourth one. You can leave the first two questions and still get some worth for the 10 minutes you spent on that set. So please ensure that while you're solving a set, you read all the questions also if you have spent 7-8 minutes and have not made much of a headway. Again, try to eliminate options. That goes again for all the sections. Whenever you read a question, you're not able to solve it, look at the options and see if you can get rid of one or two options. Because as soon as it comes down to two options, it's worth taking a risk. Even if you do not know the exact answer, you should go for the exact answer if you can. But if it's not there, you should try and take a risk if you only have two options. So these are the things that I would emphasize on the data interpretation side. Let's move on to the verbal side. So again, I'm saying here that you should take a call after reading one paragraph, but that's not a blanket rule. Most of you should try and read all the RC passages. You should not leave an RC passage, and you should try and do that throughout mocks also. If you know that you're going to read all the RC passages and you have done it in the mocks, your reading speed is high enough to do that, your vocabulary is good enough to do that, then you do not need to take a call after reading one paragraph. You read the entire essay of whatever comes first and go on solving. But if you know that your reading speed is slow and you might miss out on one or two passages, then it becomes important that you take a call after reading one paragraph on whether you are going to solve this or whether you are not going to solve this. In the first paragraph, what are you looking for? You're looking for topics which you understand. You're looking for words that you understand. If there are 3, 4, 5 words which you do not know or we do not have a good feel about in the first paragraph itself, then the chances are very rare that you'll be able to solve the questions and get them right on that paragraph. So do not try and muscle your way through that. Move on to the next RC passage. And this, I again repeat, this is only for people who think they would have to leave one or two RC passages. If you are sure that you'll read all the passages, then you should read all the passages. There is no excuse for jumping ship after reading one paragraph. Try to attempt all the questions. It is true for all the sections. In English, you should attempt all the questions. Even if you do not know the exact answer, you should attempt all the questions. The reason why I say is that eliminating options is relatively easier in English. You can easily say that, okay, D should not be the answer here, or A should not be the answer here, and you can zero down on one or two possibilities and then take a guess. But there's also, because the ones that you are attempting, there also your accuracy might not be very high. Accuracy numbers tend to be lower in verbal ability than in the other two sections because there isn't one exact answer. Most of the answers look similar. So my suggestion has been that people should try and attempt each and every question in verbal ability. So if there are 30, you should have 30 tick marks on them, unless you were not able to do one particular RC passage, in which case you'll have to leave out those questions. But otherwise, try and attempt all the questions, and it's very important that you do that. That is mostly for the topics. Overall, also, I would like to just touch on one or two things which we should do. Ensure you're in the right frame of mind. So whenever I used to appear for an examination, I had noticed through my marks that if I did a few questions the night before, I was more switched on and I could get started as soon as I got the paper. While if I didn't do any questions the previous day, it would take me 15 or 20 minutes to warm up. So that's what worked for me. Now you should identify what works for you and then go after that. The next part is that use the last 10 minutes wisely. They make a big difference. Yes. So what I would do is whenever I would solve the paper, in the last 10 minutes, I'd just go through whatever I have missed out, whatever are the remaining questions, and identify pockets where I can very easily solve the question. So this is more surgical in nature, as in you look at the 5 questions and this one I can do, so I'll do that very quickly. And then this is the other one that I can do and I'll do that. So I wouldn't follow any sequence at that point of time. I'll just have a look at the entire paper and see where I can add the maximum value and start doing that. And many times I was able to do up to 4 to 5 questions in the last 10 minutes because I've already read some of them while going through the question, and now I have almost solved them and I just go ahead and do it. So it is extremely crucial that you use these last 10 minutes wisely. Do not keep attempting 1 or 2 questions and let the clock tick and move on to the next section, because that's an entire waste of time. In your first 15 minutes you have had a look at the paper. So in the last 10 minutes you should be able to identify your areas of strength and go and attack them. And there's a third point, which you also notice in the mocks. You need to stay switched on for entire 3 hours. Many times I have noticed, myself have noticed, I have noticed other students that in the first hour they are extremely energetic. They're trying to solve questions. They're putting in a lot of energy. But as the time passes, especially at a 2 hour, 2.5 hour marks, things slow down. They have started getting tired. They have become slower. They are muddling through one set for 15 minutes, 20 minutes as the clock is ticking along. Do not do that. You need to stay switched on for entire 3 hours. If you in the mocks you notice your energy levels dipping at any point of time, you should try and correct for it. And the way to correct for it is would be to spend a lot of time at home also studying for 3 hours at a stretch with your entire energy in it. So this was mostly what I had. If you want me to talk about any other video or any other thing, and I'll be happy to oblige. Thank you.